Coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, it's the Sports Wagering Zone. Welcome to the show. I'm Chris Pardo. You're listening to us live right now on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We're also podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, you name it, we're easy to find. We're also on Blackjack TV on the East Coast and on milehighradio.com. So no matter what time zone you happen to be in, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. We're at 12 noon here at Eastern Time, so welcome to the show. Got a lot to talk about today. Yes, we do. We're going to be talking about some college football. Got some emails over the weekend asking about college football. When are we going to start talking about college football? Well, it's right around the corner, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Of course, as usual, we're going to talk about Major League Baseball because that is definitely the king sport right at the moment. We're going to look at 3 games, take a look at them, and see how the line movement is going in them, as well as which direction the pros are going as well. You got Cleveland against Toronto, Philadelphia Phillies against the Washington Nationals, and the Pittsburgh Pirates against the Milwaukee Brewers. Those are the 3 games we're going to take a close look at. We're going to review how this little method or system has worked out during the month of July, now that we're into August. Kind of give you some thoughts and ideas on that as well. And like I said, we're going to take a look at some futures in college football. So that's a full lineup of things to talk about today. But as usual, the first thing we always do is we take a look at what happened yesterday in Major League Baseball. The favorites, well, they went 11-4, really loud and clear yesterday. The dogs were not barking at all, but there were some upsets and some pretty decent ones too. The Reds, being a plus 170 on the money line, beat the Mets. The Brewers, a plus 150 on the money line, beat the Braves. The Rangers, plus 132, beat the Mariners, and the A's, as a plus 104 on the money line, beat the Angels. However, in spite of that, and because of the 11 favorites that won, they still lead at 58.2% on the season so far. As far as the unders went yesterday in the run totals, they went 9-6, but the overs, well, they still hold the lead at 50.4%. So that's the story yesterday as far as Major League Baseball is concerned. Like I said, we're going to take a look at 3 games close up, give you an idea as to which direction the pros are going in those games. Of course, we're also going to see which direction the line movement is going as well. And we're also going to take a look at some college football. Got an email over the weekend saying, gee, college football is still going to be closer even before the NFL. When are we going to start talking about that? So we're going to take a look at 3 teams out in the Texas area. Rice, we're going to take a look at Rice. We're going to look at Air Force and also at Texas and kind of take a look at the over-under on those games as far as total win games are concerned. So that's on tap for today as well. And of course, like I said, we'll bring you up to date as to what's going on with this little method or system, whatever you want to call it, that has to do with following the pros and how well they're doing. In the meantime, it's easy to get a hold of us. It's not very hard. Just send an email. Send it to the sportswageringzone@gmail.com. That's the sportswageringzone@gmail.com. If there's something you want us to talk about, going to go into, by all means, let us know. Like I said, we're in this little bubble here. We kind of have a system, a format that we've been doing for the past 5 years, but there's always room for a little tweaking, a little change here or there. So if you can come up with something, by all means, let us know. We'll see if we can do it. We'll kind of take it from there. In the meantime, let's take our first break for the day. And as usual, like we said, we take 3 breaks during the day, and each one is of 1 minute duration. So let's get that first break out of the way. And when we do come back, we're going to look at the 3 games on tap for today. Once again, you're in the sports wagering zone, and we'll be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Coming to you live right here in the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Yes, we are. Of course, we're coming live to you right now on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also many more. We just don't want to go into all the detail about all the various podcast platforms that we're on. Just know that we're on most of the major podcast platforms to look at. So we got 3 games on tap for today to take a look at. First of all, we have a game at 3 o'clock. The Cleveland Indians and the Toronto Blue Jays. The Indians are 51-51. They're right at 500 so far. The Blue Jays are at 54-48. Now, these teams, if you kind of look at what they've done lately, are trending in opposite directions. The Indians, well, they just dropped 2 or 3 to the White Sox, and they're now 6-9 in the second half. Meanwhile, the Jays, they swept the Royals and are now 9-6 after the All-Star game as well. Now, in this late afternoon game, which is kind of a little unusual for a Monday, but it is an afternoon game, 3 o'clock Eastern time, Cleveland starts their right-hander, Eli Morgan. He's 1-3 with a 7.47 ERA. Toronto comes out with their lefty, Robbie Ray. He's 9-5 with a 3.04 ERA. Now, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with Toronto minus 260 money line, home favorite. Really big to start off with right at the bat. And Cleveland as a plus 230 road dog. Now, the pros in this situation, even though it's a very high number, they're not scared off by that big number. And they've even steamed Toronto up even higher, going from minus 260 to 280 on the money line. So if you like this team and you think you want to bet this game, and it's Toronto that you're looking at, you're going to have to lay some very, very heavy wood, laying $280 to win 100. Now, keep this in mind, though, in case you're thinking of going that way. Teams that do get 15 cents of steam or more, and they come off of a win, are at almost 59% as a win percentage so far this season. Now, the big favorites, when we're talking about being at minus 200 on the money line or more, if they come off of a win, they're at almost 73% as a win percentage so far this season. Also, home favorites at minus 200 or more are at 71%. So, if you're thinking about the Toronto Blue Jays, there are a lot of analytical numbers that seem to come into play and kind of makes them look not as bad as that 280 number seems to show them. Now, Toronto is 32-25 as a favorite. The Indians, well, they're like 23-32 as a dog. The Jays are going to lean on their bats once again in this game as well. They're hitting at 265. That ranks them second in Major League Baseball as far as hitting percentage is concerned. The Indians, well, they're hitting at 230, which ranks them around 26. Now, the pro money seems to be also leaning to the under in this game. The total started out at 9.5, but the under has been juiced to minus 120, which kind of lets you know that there's a good possibility it'll probably drop to 9. We've talked about this type of situation in the past where you see a number and then you see a juicing coming up. The juice will go to a certain point, and then once it reaches that point, determined, of course, by the sports books themselves, then the number will change. Like in this case, could go from 9.5 down to 9, and then, of course, the juice drops back to 110, and it kind of starts working its way back up again, if that's the case. So in this first game between the Blue Jays and the Indians, the pros are on the Toronto Blue Jays, but like I said, get ready to lay a lot of wood. Minus 280, very heavy on this particular game. Meanwhile, at 7 o'clock, you got the Philadelphia Phillies. They're at 52-53. They're playing the Washington Nationals, who are 49-56. Now, these are National League East teams. They're both within striking distance of the Mets, who are in first place. The Phillies, well, they're 3.5 games behind the Mets. The Nats, well, they're about 6.5 games back, but, it's still a little less than half the season to go. That's more than enough time for them to try to catch up. The Phillies are just 2-4 over their last 6 games, and they just dropped 2 of 3 to the Pirates, who are really at the bottom of the heap. Now, on the other side, looking at the Nationals, they traded away most of their veteran talent during the trading deadline, although they just took 2 of 3 against the Cubs in spite of not having those players. Now, in tonight's game, which is the first game of the series, the Phillies come out with Roger Suarez. He's 5-3 with a 1.12 ERA. And the Nationals, they come back with their rookie, Josiah Gray, has no record so far, but a 6.75 ERA. He was recently acquired from the Dodgers at the deadline, so this is his first start with the Nationals. No record, 6.75 ERA, just came over from the Dodgers. Now, as we look at this line, it opened with the Phillies, a minus 115 road favorite. The Nationals are a plus 105 home dog. That's how they opened. Now, the pros, they've come in and pounced on the Phillies. They made Philadelphia go up from 115 up to minus 125 on the money line. The Phillies in this game, they have value as a short road dog favorite. To be a short road dog favorite, you have to be at minus 150 on the money line or less. And off of a win, it also brings them up to like 58% so far this season. Now, road favorites off of a win are at 66%. So you got some analytical information that will help you if you're thinking about the Phillies. We could also be looking at a lower scoring game. The total in this game is 9. The under is juiced to minus 115. As far as the weather, temperature in the mid 70s, 5 mile per hour winds blowing in from the outfield, okay, from center field to home. And of course, the Nationals are one of the best under teams this season. If you would have bet the Nationals as far as an under situation, whatever games they were in, they're at 62 and 40 to the under so far this season. So in this particular game, the pros are on the Philadelphia Phillies against the Washington Nationals. In the earlier afternoon game between the Indians and the Blue Jays, the pros are on the Toronto Blue Jays, but like I said, they're at minus 280 on the money line, so be prepared to lay some heavy wood if you happen to like that particular game. So that's the story so far on that. We have one more game to take a look at. That's the Pittsburgh Pirates against the Milwaukee Brewers. But we're going to take our second break, get one out of the way. When we come back, that's going to be the first order of business. And of course, we're also going to take a look and let you know how this little method or system has been working so far. So just a reminder, you're in the sports wagering zone. And as usual, we will be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Glad to have you on board. Coming to you live from the Mile High City in Denver, Colorado on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Google. We're there everywhere. So very easy to get a hold of. So we're talking about 3 games for today as far as line movement is concerned and determining which direction the pros are going in them as well. Let's recap the 2 we talked about earlier. At 3 o'clock, you got the Indians against the Blue Jays. In that game, the pros are on the Toronto Blue Jays, and a lot of the analytical data also seems to be pointing to them as well. But keep this in mind. If you do like Toronto and you're going to bet them, you're looking at a minus 280 or even higher as far as the money line is concerned. Meanwhile, at 7 o'clock, you got the Phillies against the Washington Nationals. And in this particular game, the pros are on the Phillies as well. Now, at 8 o'clock, you got the Pittsburgh Pirates against the Milwaukee Brewers. Pirates are 40 and 65. The Brewers are 63 and 43. Now, these 2 teams are Central Division opponents, and they're at opposite ends of the division as far as the standings are concerned. The Brewers, well, they're in first place, while the Pirates are at 22 and a half games back in last place. So, in tonight's opening series game, Pirates go with their righty, Bryce Wilson, who's 2 and 3 with a 4.83 ERA. The Brewers come in with their left-hander, Eric Lauer. He's 3 and 4 with a 3.78 ERA. Now, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with Milwaukee as a minus 190 home favorite, and Pittsburgh a plus 175 road dog. Now, the pros aren't going to outsmart themselves in this one. Once again, they're backing the much more superior team that's playing at home. So they steamed Milwaukee even higher from minus 190 up to minus 210 on the money line. Now, keep this in mind once again, just to repeat big home favorites of minus 200 or more, if they're coming off of a win, are at 73% as a win percentage so far this season. Teams getting 15 cents of steam or more coming off of a win are at almost 59% so far this season. Home favorites are at 60% as well. Pittsburgh is just 7-19 against left-handed pitching. The Brewers, they're 52-32 against right-handed pitchers. Milwaukee is 45-32 as a favorite. Pittsburgh is only 35-61 as a dog. The Brewers are 29-24 at home. The Pirates are 17-35 on the road. Now, also, Milwaukee is a plus 88 in run differential. Meanwhile, the Pirates, they're minus 150 as a run differential. Milwaukee is 10-3 against Pittsburgh so far this year as well. So the total is 9. The under is juiced up to minus 120, which means, once again, as before, once you get that juice up around 120, 125, the next move will be the number will drop from 9 down to 8.5. So in this particular game, pros are on the Milwaukee Brewers, and they're also on the under as well. So once again, just to recap the 3 games for today. The Indians against the Blue Jays. The pros and most of the analytical information coming in is on Toronto. The Phillies against the Nationals at 7 o'clock this evening. The pros in this game are on the Philadelphia Phillies. And then finally, you got the Pirates against the Brewers. And in that game, the pros, without a doubt, very heavily in on the Milwaukee Brewers as well. So those are the 3 games we took a close look at. Kind of let you know what the line movement is like in those games. And we'll also kind of give you an idea as to which direction the pros are going. Now, this is a neat little system, a little method, whatever you want to call it. It has to do with just taking a look at the line movement, seeing which direction the pros are going, and kind of either going with them or against them, but at least you'll have an idea as to what they are. Yesterday, we had 3 plays. Had the Reds against the Mets. In that game, we had the Mets. That was a loser. The Brewers-Braves game, we had the Braves in that game. The Brewers obviously won. That was the loss there as well. But we did have one winner. Had Tampa Bay over the Red Sox. So yesterday, we had 3 plays, had 2 losers, and 1 winner. Now, I also got an email talking about how the order of these wins and losses go. Because I always say, well, they had 2 in a row, 3 in a row, whether the pros had 3 winners or 3 losers in a row. That might determine which direction you want to go, whether you want to go with them or against them. So just keep one thing in mind. As we talk about the games that were being selected, they're done in chronological order. We're going to talk about the game that's played first, then the next game is played second, and then third according to the time area, okay? So this way, if you kind of make a little notation by them or write them down in that order, you'll know that, like for instance, yesterday, the Reds-Mets game was the first game we bet on, then the Brewers and the Braves, and then the Red Sox and Tampa. So there's 2 losses in a row followed by a win. Now, if you go back the day before, it just kind of goes the other way. The first game of the day was Kansas City against Toronto. That was a win. And then we had Tampa Bay beating Boston. That was another win. Then the third game of the day, which is a night game, Philadelphia against Pittsburgh, that was a loser. So if you look at in the context of these past 2 days, you'll see that the Pros had 3 losses in a row. Then they came in with a winner because before that they had 3 winners in a row. So they had 3 winners in a row, 3 losers in a row, and now they had a winner to start off this new segment. So just kind of give you an idea as to how that runs. Because again, we got an email about that trying to say, well, how do we know which game was first, which one was second, whether they're on an upward swing or a downward swing? That's the way you do it. Every game we give you is in chronological order. The first game is the earlier game, then the one after that is the game that follows it, and then if there's a third game, it's the third game that follows that one. So, that's the order. We're not giving you the night game and then the day game and then another night game. They're right in order in that way. So this way you can keep a record for yourself as to how well or how bad they're doing. So as far as the month of July, which ended, we had wound up with 63 plays with 32 winners for a 50.7% average. And from the 1st of April till the end of July, we're at 53.8%, almost 54%. So that'll kind of give you an idea as to how well or how bad it's doing. That's the way it goes. So that's the story there. We're going to take our final break. We come back, we're going to take a look at a couple of college football future plays. We'll be back into the zone right after this message. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms as well. So we talked about baseball, but again, got a couple emails saying, hey, college football's right around the corner too. I know you started to talk about NFL futures. Any futures for college football. So we kind of looked into certain things and came up with 3 teams that you might want to take a closer look at. Because, like I said, the college football season just less than a month away. So now it's really a good time to try to start looking for some value on the season win totals. Now, before the NBA season ends and the public eye starts shifting to the pigskin market, let's take a look at 3 games as well. Rice over 5.5. Their over under is 5.5 as far as game totals are concerned. We're kind of leaning to the over 5.5 on this game. Now, this is 2021. For the first time in a long time, there is a genuine excitement at Rice, where what once seemed to be a suicidal resolve to put in a Stanford type offense, okay, coached by David Shaw, okay, it looks like maybe now it's starting to pay off. Remember, Rice in Texas is very similar education wise as Stanford or Harvard or any of the teams up in that situation, that reason. So generally, because their standards just so high, the quality of their football players doesn't really match up with some of the other colleges. The Owls impressed during their compressed 2020 season. They were in a position to win all 5 of their games because of COVID. They returned 8 defensive starters, okay, which was a very good defensive unit last year, okay, ranked nationally in scoring defense, and with depth on the offensive line, and they got big wide receiver target, Bradley Rosner, who's 6'5". He had 55 catches in 2019. He didn't play in 2020 because of COVID, okay? So the transfer market provided options, including their ex-Nebraska quarterback Luke McCaffrey. Okay, that's Christian McCaffrey's brother, by the way. Okay, and former Weber State quarterback Jake Constantine, who started 23 games for the Wildcats and has 33 career touchdown passes. Now, I know the schedule opens like an old Southwest Conference slate. You got Arkansas, then they play Houston and Texas. But even if the Owls swallow the big donut against that trio of teams, plenty of wins are still right down the road because it's the USA Conference is kind of watered down, and they also play their crosstown rival, Texas Southern. Now, so we're looking at Rice as possibly an over at 5.5 for Rice as total numbers are concerned. In Air Force, the over under is at 6.5. We're looking at over 6.5. Okay. Now, the Falcons split 6 games last year, despite almost their entire projected defense opting out because of COVID. Now, several starters from their 2019 defensive team are going to come back again to play, and a lot of them who stepped into their roles a year ago, with the result likely being a very highly combative unit as far as the defense is concerned. That has often been the ingredient to the most successful teams that the Air Force has. On the other side of the ball, longtime offensive coordinator Mike Thiessen is usually able to put together a functional option-based team. In fact, the offense led the nation in rushing last year. Starters have to be replaced along the line, but reloading up front is a standard operating procedure for the Falcons. The schedule presents many win opportunities with non-conference games against Florida Atlantic and, of course, Army and Navy as well, besides a lot of opportunities against Mountain West teams as well. So getting over that 500 mark and to another bowl game is pretty well within the reach of Air Force. So we're looking at Air Force to go over 6.5. We're looking at Rice to go over 5.5. And then finally, looking at Texas to go over 8. Now, for some reason, it became almost obligatory for most of the sports analysts to kind of degrade Texas, the Longhorns, in the era when Tom Herman was the coach, okay? And many are doing it again, even though it's Steve Sarkisian who's taking over the team. We know him because he was Nick Saban's offensive coordinator down there in Alabama. Sarkisian inherits a program that was a handful of plays from a playoff consideration last year. Now, they had some narrow losses of 2 and 3 points and another one in overtime against Oklahoma. And we also saw enough of their sophomore quarterback, Casey Thompson, in that blowout game at Colorado in the Alamo Bowl. So we kind of think there might be a shot there as well. Meanwhile, Sarkisian's going to embrace the second chance as a head coach under the USC adventure that went off the rails. And of course, he was fired back there in 2015. So picked up by Saban, did very, very well, and he's now in the Big 12. So we kind of look at Texas going over 8. Once again, Air Force over 6.5, and Rice over 5.5 as well. So that's a roundup of at least 3 games. We're going to take a look at more and more of them as we get closer to the start of the college season. Meanwhile, let's take a quick look once again at the 3 baseball games that we talked about today. Cleveland against Toronto. The pros are on Toronto. Philadelphia against Washington. The pros are on Philadelphia. And Pittsburgh against Milwaukee. The pros are on Milwaukee. Now, keep in mind that Toronto and Milwaukee game, you're going to be laying some heavy, heavy wood if you like any of those 2 games. Anyway, that's the story for today. I want to thank you very much for listening. It's Monday. It's the start of a new week. Thursday, you got the first preseason game. We're going to kind of talk about that in the next day or so. Take a look at the line in that game. Right now, it looks like Pittsburgh is the favorite in that game against the Cowboys. That's going to be the start of the preseason. That's the Hall of Fame Bowl out there in Canton, Ohio. So until tomorrow, once again, we're here every day, Monday through Friday at 12 noon. And we're here Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Have a great Monday. If you're going to be betting today, I hope you have a profitable Monday too, as well. So we're starting the week over. We're talking baseball. We're going to be talking some NFL football. And of course, if we can squeeze some more in, we'll try to throw some college football in there as well. So until tomorrow at 12 noon, thank you very much for listening. We're here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, and we'll be back again tomorrow at 12 noon. So have a very pleasant Monday. But like I said, if you're betting, I hope you have a profitable Monday as well. Goodbye, everybody.